Guys, I'm happy to welcome back to the podcast our friend Corey DeAngelis. He's National Director of Research for the American Federation for Children. By the way, you can find them at federationforchildren.org. Corey is also a senior fellow at the Reason Foundation. He's co-editor of School Choice Myths, setting the record straight on education freedom. Hey, Corey, welcome back to the podcast. Some pretty big news out of Arizona on the school choice front. Tell us about it. What do we need to know?
Yeah, we're all super excited about the huge victory in Arizona that came just a couple of weeks ago. With this victory, it's the biggest school choice victory in U.S. history. Every single family, regardless of income, will be able to take their children's education dollars to the education providers of their choosing. That could be a public school, a private school, charter school, or homeschool. And it's the first state in the nation to do so, where every single family is eligible. This is over 1 million students in the state of Arizona. And with this win, Arizona just cemented itself as the #1 state for school choice and educational freedom in the United States.
Wow. So this is actually huge news. I mean, as far as I can tell, Corey, we've been talking about using somewhat different language, whether it's vouchers or scholarships. We've been talking about this issue for 30 years. And it seemed like in a lot of places it was a talking point for libertarians and conservatives, but nothing ever seemed to get done, probably because of the entrenched power of the teachers' unions. So let's talk about here you have a whole state, Arizona, that, as I understand it, you're saying is now allowing all parents that have kids to choose. Do they want to send their kid to a public school? Do they have a choice to go to private schools? I'm assuming they have a choice to go to Christian or religious schools if they choose.
Yep.
And this is huge because it provides a model for other states to look at as well. So who are some of the heroes who have made this happen in Arizona, and talk a little bit about how they were able to overcome the resistance of the familiar objectors and blockers?
So, I mean, the heroes were all the Republicans in the House and the Senate and the governor as well. In Arizona, they have very slim majorities. It's a 1-seat majority in the House and in the Senate. So every single Republican needed to show up, and they needed to show up and vote for the party platform issue, which is school choice, and they were able to get it done. And the way that I would put it is that the school closures and COVID really exposed all the problems inherent in the system, whether that's CRT, whether that is gender ideology in the classroom, whether that's in-person versus remote learning, which the remote didn't really work for a lot of kids. It was a problem with the one-size-fits-all nature of the system, and you had the teachers' unions really overplaying their hand and showing their true colors and awakening this new sleeping giant, which is the parents, who are a new special interest group when it comes to K-12 education. For a long time, it was just the teachers' unions, and they pretty much got their way. But then parents woke up, pushed back, and they're pressing forward, and politicians are listening to them, and they're starting to figure out that it could be a form of political suicide at this point to come out against parental rights in education.
Corey, talk a little bit about, behind this policy shift is a conceptual shift, which I think you have pioneered, which is the idea of empowering the parents and putting the parents in the driver's seat of education and not the teachers' unions, and in a sense, not even the teachers. Talk about what that means in terms of how we think about education. Why should the parents really be in the driver's seat here?
Well, because the parents know and care more about their kids' education needs and other needs than bureaucrats sitting in offices hundreds of miles away. And look, we already fund people directly when it comes to so many other taxpayer-funded initiatives, whether it's Pell Grants or the GI Bill for higher education. You could take your scholarship to a public or private, religious or non-religious university. We do the same thing with pre-K programs, including Head Start. You can take the funding to a religious or non-religious provider of pre-K. We do the same thing with food stamps, Medicaid, Section 8 housing vouchers. The funding follows the decision of the people. All I'm arguing and other school choice advocates is that we apply that same logic to those in-between years of K-12 education to fund students as opposed to systems. What's interesting to me, though, is a lot of the same people who support all those other things, they get all up in arms only when it comes to K-12 education, and they'll say, oh, public dollars have to go to public schools. Then you can come back and say, well, these are, one, there's no such thing as public dollars. They are taxpayer dollars that are taken from private citizens. But then, two, well, what about all these other public dollars that you support going to families that they can then use at private institutions? Should families be forced to spend their food stamp dollars at residentially assigned government grocery stores? Obviously not. And so this is all about politics and power dynamics. It's not about logic or the needs of families.
I think what's so exciting about this, Corey, is it seems to suggest that if you can see a surge in educational performance in Arizona on the part of kids, it will now provide an unanswerable argument that this is the way it should be done everywhere. So you've got now the mechanism for that to occur. I want to congratulate you and all the hard work you've done on this issue for a long time. It must be exhilarating to see it come to fruition. I realize it's one state, but it's a very important state. So thank you for the work you're doing. Keep it up. We'll have you back to keep talking about the issue as it develops.
All right. Thank you so much.